guys staying busy?
I
Well,
think we're
yeah,
missing a couple
it's a
if you need-
given
if
for
you
you
need to.
guys.
Yeah, we're actually doing night flights
John? I don't know if
now,
John's
so
coming.
I think there's only like 2.
Oh, I was
last
just
night,
gonna
but-
ask, did the
Yeah.
rain help
well,
with
thank you,
the
thank you.
sea business?
Last Sunday to visit my old guys in a firehouse. And,
Did you bring the conceptual?
firehouse things changed a lot.
Yeah.
They got a nice setup there, though.
High tech, really high tech stuff. Stuff I never had.
Yeah.
And,
The corn
gee
business
whiz,
is
a lot of gee whiz stuff.
good.
But that's good,
Yeah.
you know, that's good.
That stuff's cool. It's
All right, we're at 5:30. Let's go ahead and call this June 7th, 2022 meeting of the Civil Aviation Board to order. Mr. Holwalk,
Chairman Curtis.
will you call roll?
Absolutely. Chairman Curtis.
Here.
Vice Chair Leslie.
Here.
Member Verdal.
Here.
Member Martinez.
Here.
Member Elbus.
Here.
Member King. Mayor Morris. You have a quorum.
Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes from the April 5th meeting? Fantastic. Do I have a motion for approval?
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We'll approve those. Do I have to have a vote on that, Justin?
Yes, please.
All
You
right.
can do it by acclamation.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No, same sign. Minutes are approved. All right, we're going to move into the airport director's report. We're going to turn the floor over to Mr. Harris, and it's worked really well the last few meetings to kind of have an open environment, have open discussion, and so let's kind of open the floor up as we work through these, and if you've got questions, please don't be bashful.
Good evening. Wow, it's loud. Good evening, Chairman, Vice Chairman, and members. Quick sidebar real quick. Hey, Mike, I just sent you an email. Okay. So, oh. I think we're on hold for a second.
That's all right.
I forgot one of the most important pieces in my slideshow, so we're going to get it put up. Okay.
When you get to the terminal, he'll pull them up.
Okay. So we're going to start the projects. The airport fencing project, which started January 17th, it's about 95% complete. We're just waiting on gate openers and the hardware to run that system. They ordered it towards the end of the project, and it's a 3-month back order. So it looks like the project won't be fully complete until around August time.
We've discussed this in here earlier. Is it gonna be, what's gonna open the gate?
The city's ID card access that we have, it's going to tie into that system. Along with that, we purchased our own card making software and a printer. So now we print our own ID cards, and I forgot to put that in the slide also. So, but we redesigned the cards. We got with IT and human resources, and everybody was okay with it. So now we print our own cards. We can, when someone comes in and they need an ID card for the airport, we issue them a card, and then we submit the IT help ticket, and IT activates it. So it's a much faster process, and it takes the burden off of human resources, who was basically acting as kind of the middleman So we took a big burden off of IT. I mean, IT, well, human resources.
And how long do they last, James?
For tenants, it's 3 years, and for contractors, it's between 1 and 2.
Okay. Thank you.
The next slide shows some pictures that were taken of the new fence. The runway 1230 Pappy project is no updates. Projects is ready to go June 20th. We're setting up the pre-con meeting, and then I'll send out I don't want to call it a newsletter, but I'll send something out to the tenants, letting them know our schedule, whenever we have to close the runway and things like that. That way everybody will know what's going on. The airport equipment building, the doors have been installed. We're waiting on door openers now, right? They're back ordered with no ETA. Right now we have the chain pulls that are still on them, so we're able to utilize the building. We just don't have automatic doors yet. And the electrical is being installed. Currently, they came out and put some conduit in, and they'll be running actual electrical lines here soon.
So you're able to actually store some equipment in it?
Yes, we got a little bit of it, Phil. It's a huge building, so.
And when are your visitors with parachutes coming?
July. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, that's great.
And I got pictures of where you can see the doors. The terminal floor project, it's been awarded to, well, not awarded, we're going with Nick Griego. They have the city's construction contract. So they ordered the VCT tiles. This project should have been completed 3 months ago, but we were waiting on CES to cut a PO to Nick Griego, and that took a while. So I took a picture of what the floor looks like now. It's in pretty bad shape. It has been for a while. We tried cleaning it, shining it. There's no fixing it. So the project is just going to replace all the VCT tile and put new VCT down.
What's a VCT tile? What's a VCT? Thank you.
Vinyl, something another, something another. Vinyl something tile.
Yeah, it's vinyl. That's all I know.
Maybe vinyl composite?
What's down there is VCT, so it's the same thing, just it'll match the color of the new stuff. During the last rainstorm, we found that the terminal is still leaking. There have been multiple repairs over the years, and it's over 25 years old, and it's time to replace the roof completely. So I got with Nick Griego, and they're going to give us a quote to replace the entire roof, and then I'm going to send it to New Mexico DOT, Aviation, and the FAA and see if we can get some help with it, because I'm pretty sure it's going to be pretty expensive.
How bad was the leak, if I could ask? Multiple leaks, single leaks?
Multiple leaks.
Where are the areas?
The same areas. It's coming in from somewhere, and it's kind of dropping down onto the tiles in different locations. But I believe it's coming in a few spots, and it's just finding the same avenues to the same spot. So if you go in, you'll see the tiles are all just, watercolored, and so I told the guys not to replace them yet. Let's see what we can do about the roof, because we're just wasting money replacing tiles. So
Will the FAA take into account the cost of those repairs in consideration for the design and terminal build?
no, they consider it two separate projects, because the new terminal will take a while to build, so we still need to maintain what we have now.
Right.
So if they do look at that project, for them, it will be a low-cost project that might be interested in. So it's just getting the data to them and
I
figuring
just
out
thought
if
there
they
might
can
be
go.
some grace in there as to how in-depth of a repair we do if we have a design and a new terminal on the horizon.
Yeah, they look at it separate.
Okay.
It's the now versus the then, so.
I can't imagine them not wanting to protect their equipment that they've got in there with the TSA.
And that's kind of what I was getting at, was is it leaking in the TSA area? These tiles here, they're all delaminating on the edges, and so my next thought was, is it leaking in an area above the tiles? Should we wait on the tiles
It's,
until after we've had the roof repaired?
yes, it's leaking above the tiles, and, and we're talking about the roof tiles.
Right, the
The ceiling.
VCT tiles.
No, the ceiling tiles.
No, I'm talking, the previous topic was the flooring, and
Yes.
the VCT tiles were bad. And
Okay.
to me, looking at this picture, they just look like they're all delaminating, like they're water soaked,
Yes.
almost.
They were, at one point, the floor, inside the vestibules, they were leaking so bad that it was about an inch of water on the floor. And that's when the vestibule started delaminating from the floor. And then that water was getting tracked into the terminal, which caused the same issue inside the terminal. So during that time, we glued down what we could, and we started making plans to replace it.
Okay.
I think the question is, though, which comes first, the floor tile or the fixing the roof where the water won't damage the new tile?
Right.
We'll look at that. We're just waiting on the quote from Nick Grego, and then I'm gonna run with it, and then we'll see.
Whichever comes first?
Yes, sir.
How far out is a roofing replacement, do you think?
I'm not sure how long of a project that would be.
Is that CES also? Or
It
is that
would be
already-
done through CES.
Is that already not in Nick Grego's hands?
No, it's not. We don't have a roofing contract. There's other roofing contractors within CES that have capabilities, but we don't know what it's gonna cost to fix the roof, until we figure out what that potential cost is, and then working with the FAA to potentially find a funding source to replace the roof. It's gonna take time to do that, but in regards to replacing the tile floor prior to replacing the roof, replacing that floor is just gonna happen sooner. I mean, we're further out and ahead of the process already on that.
Understand?
We're working on a plan to expand the parking lot. Growing pains, as we all know. The plan is to move the airport administration offices behind the FBO next to the big hangar, where Blue Sky used to be. We're gonna have to remove the trees along the roadway, widen the entrance to the parking lot itself, because, you know, it has that sharp curve. Then we're gonna asphalt the remaining parking lot and the grassy area. I got with K Barnett, and we came up with a plan to widen that entrance and spread it out and make more parking on that side and down the line where the FBO is. And so they estimated that it'll cost $277,707. So I sent those estimates to New Mexico DOT and the FAA for their consideration. No, the $277,000 is the cost for the entire project. So that's moving septic, utilities, everything. The whole price was $277,000. So in the next slide, I got a picture of what the plan would be. And it's looking like it would add an additional 80 parking spaces from the square footage that I got for each location.
We know you need them.
Hey, James or Justin, for the future development that you're talking about with like the terminal building and things like that, is this kind of align with how you want the airport to be developed in like the 4 to 5 year time frame? Is that, if that makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And so,
Like haphazard?
no,
If that-
no, absolutely. So when we pull up the when we get to the design and terminal build,
Oh,
we'll
sorry,
have
all right.
we'll actually have a site plan that kind of shows an overall, not just a floor plan, but we have a conceptual for what the site could look like as well.
Okay.
So
Just
it,
wondering.
yep, that won't interfere with it.
The taxiway Alpha reconstruction project, we're still waiting on, FAA to, finalize their budget for this year, and then they're planning on doing the design with, discretionary, and then we're still waiting on the BIL funds to, figure out how they're gonna distribute those. So we're waiting on that and haven't heard anything yet. The terminal rehab and relocation project. We're still waiting on, funding word. Like I said, we have a good chance of getting the project funded either this year or next year. They're supposed to come out with the funding plan for this year, this month, but I don't have a certain date for that.
So Michael, if you'll put up the site plan first and we can, yep.
So this is the conceptual design for the location of the terminal and the footprint of the terminal.
So you can see where the existing entrance road comes in, and then we're on the, we're gonna call it north, straight up on the page. And so to the southwest there is where James was expanding the parking lot. And so what you would do is come in the entrance road, you'd basically make that loop past what would potentially be the new FBO building, the old terminal. And then you'd have obviously drop off for passengers at the terminal facility itself. And then, of course, there's exit aisles to go on out. And then, of course, pedestrian traffic from the parking lot going across to the new terminal. On the far left-hand side there, that's where we could potentially house rental cars. And then once we get into the floor plan of the terminal itself, you can see how that flow works. And then on the upper north side of the page there, you can see where the new rampway would have to be built for any commercial services, commercial airlines that come through, and that would be the ramp space for those. Michael, can you pull up the next one? Thank you, sir. Can you zoom in any? Perfect. So basically what you would do is we're going to work from left to right across the screen. So on the left side would be the actual new terminal or the carrier desks. And so we've designed it to have 2 carriers in there, which would allow for us to recruit another carrier in for future purposes. And then, so obviously there would be staging in there, there's offices in there, there's restrooms located in there, and that far bottom left-hand corner would be the rental car space. So obviously you'd go through, then you could proceed to out those doors and onto the left out to where the rental cars would actually be stored. There's obviously some seating in there as well. And then in the top right-hand of that particular building is where you would have baggage claim. And so we'd actually have a carousel built in there with the full doors out to the ramp side to where the carriers would unload and load, as well as to just to the left of that green space in there is where TSA would have their baggage screening. So it's been designed with conveyor belts into where they could actually put one of their x-ray machines for the baggage screening in there and then rotate it on around out to the non-TSA space to where the carriers would then obviously take in and on out to the plane itself. To get to the terminal itself, so that middle section of it is really the TSA space. And so going from the arrival or from the carrier area space, you would go to the right apparently and go through TSA security checkpoint there to this bottom of the page, and then proceed to the right, obviously, into the terminal space. Upon arrivals from the carrier, you'd go on the north side, so it'd be separated by a wall space, basically, from the departures and the arrivals going through the terminal area there. Then, of course, the north of that, that's all TSA space for offices. They have to have break rooms, et cetera, that we've built in what requirements for them as part of the layout itself. And then you reach to the terminal space itself, and once again, it's kind of set up to have 2 gates right now. Plenty of seating in there. Restrooms, of course. They have a coffee bar designed in there. There is a restaurant and bar area designed in there, as well as like a souvenir gift shop type space is also in there. The thought process being is then if we ever needed to continue to expand, Michael, if you could jump back to the other one real quick. You can see where that stops on the far right side is what is now the gate areas. You could simply duplicate that exact same building to the right of that. Of course, we'd have to expand ramp space, but then we could essentially have 4 gates. That would be a whole lot of gates for us as we start thinking about mid-size airports. When you think about a Lubbock or when you think about an Amarillo, they don't have, I mean, they have 4 or 5 gates maybe as well. And so if we're at the point where we need 4 gates, we're doing really well. And so what we would talk about then is what it would run into is parking. And so obviously James had his plans to expand the parking lot there. We could obviously expand the parking lot even further out towards the southwest across the ditch line space, or even up there to where the rental car space was. You could expand parking out that direction as well. Or you could go with where the existing parking lot is, you could start looking at a parking garage type situation in that area. So very exciting. We've Decker Parish finished this up for us. We've sent it to the FAA as well as part of our grant request. And so just looking forward to hopefully them funding this particular project. So,
Are there any plans, Justin, for the existing terminal?
that would become the FBO space. And so obviously that would free up that entire building to become FBO as well as potentially administrative offices. Depending on how much available if we receive funding for the terminal, we do have administrative offices built into the terminal itself. But if we don't have enough funding, those are things that we could phase out of that building from a phase standpoint to meet the funding needs. And then we'd be able to house in the FBO with our administrative offices.
So what we were looking for, I guess, initially was that we weren't going to build any new buildings or anything over the new parking lot. And it doesn't look to me like we would.
That's correct. Yep.
Perfect.
Comments, questions on the terminal? I mean, we worked with Decker Parish over several different concepts and layouts, baggage carousels, trying to make sure we had enough room for people to, the departures and arrivals, because they're kind of right there in the same spot, trying to make sure we had enough room for those individuals to stage. So I'm pleased with where we've ended up.
How does the funding work for this? Does the city, I guess the city has to have
We-
their share and the state has a share and?
We paid for, obviously we paid for this to be done, but what we've requested from the FAA, and they have a specific out of the infrastructure bill, was for terminals and to construct terminals.
Wow.
And so
They could fund 100%.
they could fund 100% of it.
Wow.
I love the fact we get to keep the existing terminal building and turn that into our administrative. It's pretty cool when you fly into an airport and there's a substantial building with the administrative. It validates the airport, validates the city, and kind of sets us up on the right foot as you come in and get an introduction.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even with the existing FBO, as you're making that loop around, I mean, we could improve the facade of the existing building itself, and just it could look really nice from approaching our airport and visitors arriving from either side. The other thing that this does is it actually separates our commercial traffic from our general aviation traffic by putting that ramp on the north side of the air carrier versus being out there with the general aviation side.
What about general aviation being able to access the restaurant?
We would potentially, you'd have to go through TSA. I mean, because it's a secure spot.
Right.
And so if we were going to do something then we'd have to look at doing something probably within the FBO itself. But based off of demand and the fact that we're not going to, it would be leased space, there'd be the potential to lease out both spaces to one company.
And they can deliver the food from the secure area to the FBO.
Okay.
This might be too far out, but do you think you'd definitely keep the existing terminal building for now? Or would this be like a 5-10 year kind of thing to maybe redo or rebuild an FBO?
Yeah, it would just be based off of funding. I mean, obviously, if we get $14-15 million for that terminal building itself, I know James will continue to ask for money to remodel the FBO itself, but that's something that we could work on over time. May not be something we do 100% all of it at one time, but work on it as phases.
Can we, as members of the board, get copies of this as well, so we can look at it on?
Absolutely, we'll email that out to everyone.
Come up with questions and thoughts? Okay.
The timeline you mentioned last meeting, anything really change as far as pacing for this? It's probably still 3
Yeah,
or
no,
4
I
years.
think that they were planning to August timeframe, we may know. It's August, September timeframe, because it would be for the federal fiscal year, which starts October 1.
That's for next year's funding.
Correct.
Yeah.
So there's two pots of money. There's this year's funding that they're trying to decide on, and then they have to put another plan together for next year's funding from a federal side. And so there's funds right now, they're just going through, I guess, the applications to see what they want to fund this year out of this year's funding, and then next year. So we may receive funding for design this year, and then maybe funding it for construction next year. We'll just have to wait and see.
I've always liked your idea about having a restaurant in the FBO that would bring in community people to enjoy our airport.
Yes.
One of my favorite restaurants in Dallas was 94th Aero Squadron, that's right on the perimeter of Love. And, you know, they had a speaker on every table where you could listen to the airplanes talk to the air traffic control and all. It was neat. Had an airplane parked out in front. It was fun.
I'm still trying to get Canon to let me borrow a C-130 so we could put it on the thing outside the terminal.
Yeah,
I don't think they're gonna do that though.
Yeah, I think they had a Fokker triplane is what they had.
Well, they just retired all the whiskey models, so maybe we can ask them for one.
Great, man, that's exciting stuff, guys. Fun.
Yeah.
Onto the ground support equipment. So we ordered the JetGo 900 GPU, which is a ground power unit for airplanes. It's back ordered with no ETA right now. They're telling us 30 weeks, but they've been saying 30 weeks for 2 months now. So we really don't have an ETA on that. I've talked with Aero Specialties, who we ordered it from, and they've promised to send us a loaner GPU free of charge until ours get built, because they kind of made a mistake. We ordered it several months ago, but they never put the order in, and that was before the 30-week back order. So they offered to make it right by sending us a loaner until our GPU is built. So right now the loaner is from their rental fleet, and it's in maintenance, and it should be on its way by next week. So we should have a GPU in a couple weeks. The aircraft flat tire dolly, the other one that we ordered, it's currently in Denver at a shipyard, just waiting on a truck to come and pick it up. It's on a trailer, but they're waiting on a driver to come pick it up and bring it to us. The ETA on that is Thursday, but I'm not. Last week it was supposed to be here, and the week before that was supposed to be here, so it's, trucker shortage. The lav cart is still back ordered, and they said it was being built but again, I don't have any hopes for it to arrive anytime soon. We don't have a big demand for LAV services, but I think once we get that LAV service and we start advertising, then we'll get more aircraft in. Because a lot of them don't come because they need LAV services with those jets. So now we'll be able to provide that service and bring more of those jets in.
Chairman?
New-
Real quick, do we have the infrastructure on the ground already to complete our end of taking all that on?
Yes.
For emptying?
We would run it through landfill. They have the facilities to take stuff like that. And I need to call wastewater to see if they have the capability, but I don't think they do because of we call it the blue juice. I don't think they can do anything with that blue juice.
We can.
I didn't know if it was
wastewater
our
can?
own.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it's just like a Porta-John service, and so we handle that.
Oh, okay.
Good.
New chocks and tie-down straps. Ours are old and beat up, so it's time to get new ones. So I have planned to buy those in next year's budget, which is July. We got the old jet truck back. We sent it to R&D and then RNS. They fixed every leak, they fixed everything. So before everybody knows it was running very, very slowly. RNS found out that it was stuck in bypass mode. So as it's trying to send fuel to the aircraft, it's also recirculating it through itself. So they were able to fix that. There was some servos that was bad, and what do they call those valves? A pressure valve, basically. That was bad. So they replaced all that, and it's just as fast as the new truck. The loaner truck, we sent that back to Avfuel. They're supposed to be sending it to Hobbs or Roswell to help out with the fires that's going on. They got a lot of firefighting aircraft in, and they're not able to keep up with the demand right now. So that truck is either in Hobbs or Roswell. I can't remember which one they sent it to. Our new fuel trucks have arrived, and they're in service. We received our 5,000-gallon Jet A truck and our 1,000-gallon 100 low lead truck. And right now, our fuel capacity, we can hold 18,000 gallons of Jet A and 9,750 gallons of 100 low lead. That's across all the trucks and the fuel farm. And then I got, on the next slide, I have pictures of the examples of the GSE that we've already ordered, the lav cart, and that orange thing is the GPU. It's a small little quiet unit, and I saw those being used at Millionaire, and they're pretty good. And then the next slide is our new fuel trucks. One's a Dodge. I didn't want to get a Dodge, but they couldn't get Ford chassis in, so we were forced to get a Dodge. And the other one's an International, and they got electronic meters. They have the capability to print out receipts. They're mobile carrier based, and once we get the rest of the equipment for it, we'll be able to run tickets at the truck. It's a self-containing unit, so we can pull up, we type in a tail number. We can even put in the registers. If somebody pulls up and says, I want 20 aside, we can put 20 in, and it'll go and it'll stop at 20 on the dot. So the guys are getting used to them now. They love them, and they run really good. The next slide is the picture of all the trucks together with the self-serve, just to kind of show off our capability right now.
It's quite a fleet.
Yeah.
I was out there the other day, and Lee let me sit in the cab of the Jet A truck. It was quite a thrill.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it was really nice. It's high-tech. It's like the latest. It's like really good.
So
Really impressive.
with these trucks, we can fuel multiple aircraft at the same time, that's a pretty good deal. Yeah. I'm proud of that.
You should be. You should be. This is the end of a long effort to really get the old fuel trucks replaced and to deal with a lot of the issues that the old fuel trucks presented for a long time, years. And, you know, anybody that's dealt with all this should be proud. That picture right there says a lot. The fleet of the fuel trucks here at Clovis is just, I'm looking back 10 years. I remember what they looked like 10 years ago.
Yeah, me too.
So, no, great.
No, and I know that you've been promoting some of this on social media as well, and continue to do so, because people are going to see it. It's good stuff.
You should be proud.
Absolutely.
Good work.
So employments. We are currently sitting at 4,978 employments. We're halfway to our 10,000 employment goal, and we're only in month 5. Well, now we're in 6, but that's 5 months. So we got a good chance to make it to 10,000. And as I've said before, that gets the airport $1 million entitlement from the federal government. One thing I found out recently was when we hit that 10,000 employment mark, it takes 2 years for that money to actually show up. So we got a little wait afterwards, but I'll find a way to spend it.
Let's get on that list as soon as we can.
Yes, sir. But yeah, our numbers last month was 1,308, which is the highest we've been ever, right? Ever. Yeah. So we're hitting milestone after milestone. So. Fuel sales are off the charts as well.
Back to that employment for just a second.
Okay.
As we get farther into the year, or even in these summer months, if we could work with Denver Air, I don't know if they can offer any discounts or so on and so forth. I know that they've done a really good job of promoting and marketing with the city. And anyways, seems to me like that through a few promotional opportunities, it will certainly help us get there.
Yes, sir.
Well, Mr. Chairman, James and I were talking before the meeting, talking about a marketing campaign. I was in a meeting recently with a local businessman who was in Lubbock and visiting with someone that I was there to do business with. And they were talking about they drive actually now to Clovis to fly to Denver. And so trying to tap into that Lubbock and Amarillo market of, hey, the process is easy, or the flights are cheap, and there's no parking fees. And so trying to do a joint campaign of starting to market in their venues as well. So, which I think drive our employments up even more.
Absolutely.
Just to hear that someone is driving from Amarillo to Clovis speaks volumes.
Yep, absolutely. And
Progress.
we've had them come from Roswell
Wow.
to Clovis. So it's fantastic.
And do we have the scheduling now pretty well tweaked with American and United where we're?
They just made a couple of tweaks and adjustments on their flight times. I assume that they do that based off connecting flights, et cetera. So they're not always going to be the same, just like I guess they're not always the same coming out of any other airport itself. So I believe that they continually look at departures and arrival times to make the most connecting flights that you can. But that's an assumption.
Well, we've ridden on them 3 times recently to Dallas, and it's just been, from start to finish, everything's been perfect. And James, we do like the snacks. You know.
That's the biggest hit right now. Fuel sales, we sold approximately 5,388.2 gallons of 100 low lead. 2,493.5 was from self-serve only. So we're running about half truck, half self-serve on 100 low lead. The Jet A, we've sold 25,186 gallons of Jet A, and 2,153.6 has been from the self-serve. So we're doing pretty good numbers, especially for the year. A total fuel sale of 221,558, which is the highest for Clovis since we took over the FBO. And the revenue, which technically isn't the revenue because that's included in the price we purchased the fuel for. For next year, I've put in the budget. I've allotted $1 million for fuel purchasing. So if we can make over $1 million off of fuel next year, that'd be awesome. Our current fuel price for 100 low lead is $7.18. Jet A is $6.05. The 100 low lead self-serve is at $5.93, and Jet A is at $4.80. Our volume, our sales by volume, especially on the 100 low lead, is way down, and that's because people can't afford to fly. That's all I had for the update.
James, who's our primary purchaser, you not say by particular, but of Jet A? Is it mainly the air carrier, or is it?
It's Denver Air.
Okay.
AeroCare buys a lot. I'd say they're second. Now that we have self-serve up, they use the self-serve mainly, unless it's during the day and they just don't feel like it. But at night, the last two pay periods, we had no call-outs for fuel.
Thank you.
Are you still getting lots of helicopters?
Yeah, we had a weird Blackhawk come in today. It was a privately owned Blackhawk, and it was yellow and black. It was pretty cool, but I'm
Not used to seeing them like that.
yeah. They came in and got fuel and then left. Actually, this was their second trip in. They came in on their way to wherever they were going,
Came
got
back.
fuel, and they're on their way home and they got fuel.
All right.
Take any pictures?
No. I bet the guys did, though.
Any other questions, comments on the director's report?
I have one question, going back to the slides on the parking lot expansion. In the picture here, it shows the 1,200 square foot space that'll be expanded on. And right between that and the big hangar is a red box. Is that gonna be new admin offices?
No, we're going to move it. So if you know, the admin office is in the trailer.
Right.
We got with
Joe Bennett?
Joe Bennett.
Okay.
He came out, did some measurements. He says he can move that in one swing. Yeah, it's,
I got you. Literally, you're gonna move the offices.
yes, sir.
Okay. I thought he meant desks. I don't know if that was a new facility.
Well, we're gonna
Okay,
gonna
gotcha.
move the building.
Nothing else?
That pretty much completes the board meeting for tonight. We've got no old business, no new business, and so we will be adjourned until 5:30, Tuesday, July 5th, 2022. Appreciate you guys.